Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now in today's video we're going to talk about this sidecar holster from the company TRex Arms. Now I've been looking for a way to carry my Sig P365XL with this TLR sub. So the Streamlight TLR sub really for me was the weapon light that I wanted to commit to, and at that point I really didn't have a great carry option. So I did a bunch of research, came across this, and in fact based upon the recommendations of one of my subscribers found this to be about perfect. So what we're going to do in this video, I'm going to go through this in a little bit of detail just to kind of show you why this was a great option for me, how I intend on using it, and then just some of the basic overview so you can see the quality and the construction of this holster. And then in the future, well, this is going to be a great way for me to start practicing my draw. So I will have some range time coming up where I'll be able to start practicing my draw, acquiring my sight picture, hopefully getting on target and some accurate shots on my target. So we'll see how that goes, but for now, quick look at this TRex Arms holster. But with that said, I have a whole bunch to do and a whole bunch to share with you. And if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. So yes, this TRex holster, which for me has become the option for my Sig P365XL. This is not necessarily my go-to all the time for, I would say, concealed carry, but at the same time, I have been enjoying it for that purpose. Beyond all of that, I definitely need something to help me transport this. I needed something that was going to allow me to carry this concealed, and this to me was about the perfect option for a number of reasons. So let's get into the details. So I'm going to start this entire thing by saying I am absolutely not an expert. I am by no means somebody who really has all the answers. I am very much a novice, and at this point I am sort of learning and navigating my way through firearms ownership. And that comes with holsters, that comes with all the different things that you need to use your holster for. So at this point, pretty much the bulk of what I can share with you is my impressions of the quality of this, how it's been for me, and as a concealed carry option. Not really for any other sort of tactical purposes, not for any sort of sport or target shooting or anything like that. Now, with that said, I do intend on using this for some future practice. As I continue to grow and I gain experience and I get training, I will be using this as my primary holster, with the caveat being now at this point for the Sig P365XL with the TLR-7 Sub. So that's the first thing you need to know about this particular holster. Now, keep in mind again the fact that this is the TRex Arms Sidecar holster. What exactly is Sidecar? Well, you can see here, this has a hinge with a pin down the middle, and this is considered the sidecar. Now, this comes factory stock with another piece, which I am a little bit embarrassed to say I cannot find it. Unfortunately, there is a little sidecar piece to this that I just cannot find. I do not know what I did with it. I don't lose things, I would say, ever, really. With this being the exception, and I think, unfortunately, it got thrown in a cardboard box and potentially thrown away, which is only a $7 mistake. But the reality is that's a whole other avenue on this review that I really wanted to share. So unfortunately, that'll have to be for another time. So this does come factory with a separate piece. You can see I have added this particular sidecar, which is for a magazine. Now, the cool thing is that this system allows you to leverage a number of different sidecars. So depending on what you want to do, you could swap this out for a tourniquet, for handcuffs. The standard sidecar, which is pretty neat, would actually allow for something like a knife sheath, which is what I really wanted to do. So to sort of have an appendix carry knife sheath, I think would be really fantastic. Even all the way up to like AR mags. So this is a very versatile system. It is modular, and that's what really drew me to this. But you remember me saying that this is my commitment to the Sig P365XL with the Streamlight TLR-7 Sub. The biggest drawback, I would say, to having something like this holster is now proprietary. It can only be used with this combination. And the reason being, well, the actual retention comes from the weapon light. And of course, the actual holster itself takes its shape from the actual firearm. So as we get this into place here, there is a nice sort of positive click. It's not like a super strong click, but at the same time, you can hear it does sort of press and click into place. Again, not the most sort of clicky, but you can see the actual retention is almost fully derived from the weapon light, not from the firearm, not from the muzzle. No other points here does it actually create the retention, and it comes directly from that light. So as I mentioned, this holster setup is now pretty much proprietary to my Sig P365 with the Streamlight TLR-7 Sub. Now, a few of the features that you see on here, you can get different clips if you so choose. These ones here are sort of the standard plastic clips, and this was just fine for my needs. I actually like these quite a bit. There's a little bit of a lip underneath, which is nice, kind of helps you to get this off of your belt. And these are sized for 1.5 inch belts. At this point, I do have 1.5 inch range belts and also 1.75. If you wanted to, you could certainly swap these out for a 1.75 inch deep belt. Now, something else worth noting, you can order this by your dominant hand. So for me, this is dominant right, and it will change the side of the sidecar. So on this particular model here, you can see this has the magazine on the right. So as I'm wearing it, it is actually on my left-hand side. Now, I am, again, not going to be an expert, but what I found was interesting. Actually, as you take your magazine, it actually is set in so that your ammo is facing to the right. And as you look here, to the right. So you kind of got to imagine this being in front of me. So as this is on my belt, the ammo facing to the right. Now, there's probably like a dexterity thing or, a muscle memory and an actual technique to how you draw the magazine. I am certainly not going to be able to talk to that, and I can't say whether or not you're better off with it facing one direction or the other, but just note that on this particular sidecar, this does face this way, which when you're wearing it as a right-hand dominant, it does face to the right. Now, something else to note, this does have a little wing on the end. This helps to keep this whole thing pushed towards your body. It definitely works, and it helps to actually get everything to articulate and sort of bend where it needs to. I find when I have this on the front of me, I can get this to sit literally perfectly to the point where it's very comfortable. It actually articulates just about the right spot so that everything sits nice and flush, but it's fairly comfortable overall, and everything seems to be fairly well concealed. As far as color options, there are a ton of different options. Some of them are upgrades. This one here happens to be an upgrade. So here you can see Encryptic Raid. Now, if you've been watching my channel, you've heard me talk a number of times of MultiCam Black, which I do absolutely love. MultiCam Black, they do offer it. So why didn't I get that? Well, I went back and forth. I actually had it in my cart a few times and then eventually changed out to this particular camo because I just wanted a little more pattern. The thing about MultiCam Black is if you don't get a real nice sheet, you don't get a lot of pattern, and paying for an upgrade, I definitely wanted to see it. So here with the Encryptic Raid, it definitely helped out. Now, something I think is worth noting, if you look at how TRex Arms actually makes their Kydex, it has the appropriate color pretty darn close as the base color in the Kydex. What you need to consider is every single camo pattern has an intended effectiveness based upon the color selection and the colors that they use. And if you don't use the right base on the Kydex, it comes out a little bit wonky. Like, for example, and I love this knife sheath, don't get me wrong, but here you can see Kryptek Raid done on the wrong color base. So these are greatly different in terms of their overall look and their overall effectiveness, because the color is just different. So TRex Arms, definitely getting it pretty close to right. And here, well, you'll see I happen to have a Kryptek Raid hat. That's what I've been wearing, and you can see this is pretty darn close. I mean, not perfect. It looks like there's just a touch more green in this fabric, but then at the same time, who's to say which one of these is right? I mean, I think this is also a licensed Kryptek hat, but at the same time, I mean, does it sort of change from garment to garment, from piece to piece, and from equipment to equipment? It might. But at least in this case, it is pretty darn close. Now here, as I get this onto my belt, these clips, very easy. And the one thing that's just a little bit, it's not even difficult, just to pay attention to, this can get a little bit snagged. So if you're familiar with this type of setup, you're not gonna have a problem. But I find sometimes if I don't pay attention and I go to put this on, that wing is actually pushing right into the top of my pants and really preventing this from going in easy. So I kind of start on this side and then get the clip going. That's no problem there. And then working it onto this side. Pretty straightforward. So this is definitely a very nice holster with nice clips. And as I mentioned, 1.5-inch webbing belt. So here, the 1.5-inch belt, this is working fine, no problem at all, fitting in pretty nice, and I can get everything pretty well squared up. Now you do have the option to run this at different heights. I did find for me, this was the most optimum height, and I'll tell you why. When you look at this and where it's set, this can actually potentially go a little bit, and I'm going to say lower on the holes, but what that does is it actually is going to lower the holster deeper into your carry, and it kind of gets in the way when I'm sitting down, and it actually tends to print a little bit more lower down, because for me, with this set the way it is, these are all the way to the top, which at that point is pushing the actual holster as high as it can possibly go. And I find for me, that's like the least obvious because it's tucked underneath my shirt, and for my body size and sort of the way I carry, where it sits up a little bit higher, I just can protect the firearm a little bit more. My hands tend to be more in that area, my arms kind of blocking things, and it just keeps this much more concealed. Now you can see the articulating nature, very nice. This makes a little bit of a V in front of me, where the articulation right in the middle there, no problem, works out very well. And that wing hanging off is helping to push that in that direction. So you can clearly see how that wing is going to help cant everything in the proper direction. Again, the firearm, putting it in, little bit of a click, not a ton, but a little bit of a positive click. And then with the magazine, same thing. You can adjust the tension. That's another thing about this. So if these start to loosen up over time, you can kind of crank down on some screws and tighten everything up. Now, another thing that TRex Arms did fantastic, look at the space you have underneath your grip to the clearance in the holster. This holster at this point is really sitting down below my belt line, but I can get on that handle easily. It's very simple, just to slide my hand. There's nothing getting in the way. No worries that I'm gonna snag. I'm not mashing my knuckles into the holster, so I can get a good firm grip. There's plenty of clearance, and that's very nice. Now, another thing that you might notice, on my particular slide, this is cut out. So if I had an optic, it would work fine too. And even with this magazine on the side, there's plenty of room. So this working out very well. You can see, very easy to draw, reholster, very clean. It fits my style about perfect. And you can see the handle here pushing in pretty well. So my grip and then the handle on my grip module, not too bad. If it didn't have the wing, it would definitely push out a little more, and especially with the P365XL versus, say, for example, the Micro Compact. Now, another thing that I do like is the ability to have a spare magazine. On my other holster for my 365 Micro Compact, I do not have that capability. So that's another nice benefit to the Sidecar setup, the ability to potentially, at this point, have the spare magazine, have your firearm, and just a system that's going to work very well. It's modular, it's flexible, it's comfortable, it looks good. Functionality, it's fantastic, and I have to say, I definitely like it. And so with the right clothes and the right setup, not a ton in the way of printing. I mean, if I'm pretty casual and just going about my business, not a big deal. Moving around, it is really hard to see what's going on here. And for the fact that I have not only a handgun, but also a spare magazine, this seems to work out pretty well. And then on top of that, well, my ability to sit down. I mean, I've sat down with this at length on a number of occasions, no problem. And the fact of the matter is, having it right there, that's just perfect. It works very well, no problem, doesn't bother me. It is maybe a touch angular, but what Kydex isn't? You're gonna have trade-offs with everything, and I think the fact of the matter is the modularity, the quality construction, the ability just to, have the extra magazine, it all kind of adds to taking a little bit of discomfort to overall increase your carry experience. So generally speaking, I have to say I greatly like this. It works very well for me, and I look forward to getting this out to the range. And so, as I mentioned, much more to come with this TRex Arms Sidecar holster. Now, again, I'm like so bummed out that I lost the other piece. I'm gonna have to get one. I think they're out of stock right now. It's a mess, but that's what happens sometimes. And if I can get it, I would like to really practice with it and demonstrate its capabilities as sort of another piece and another modular accessory to this. So, bottom line is, fantastic holster. I definitely like it. At this point, I can recommend it. I'm going to continue to experiment with this, see how it goes, but I definitely like it. And if you like this content, do me a favor, take a look at my Outer Limitless channel, which is more on the hiking, camping, and backpacking genre. On that channel, I cover everything from outdoor excursions and all the gear that goes with it. So backpacks, flashlights, sleep systems, shelter systems, you name it. That's my Outer Limitless YouTube channel. So all right, guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.